central institution in the society of organisations. We need an organ that expresses the common will and the common vision and enables each organisation to make its own best contribution to society and citizen and yet express common beliefs and common values. More significant political interest in subsidiarity arose in the late 90s after the European Union used subsidiarity as a principle governing relations between the European Union and its member states. The 1992 Maastricht Treaty of European Union states, "In areas which do not fall within its exclusive competence, the European Community shall take action in accordance with the principle of subsidiarity, only if and insofar as the objectives of the proposed action cannot be sufficiently achieved by the member states and can therefore, by reason of the scale or effects of the proposed action, be better achieved by the community." The principle was endorsed and developed in a protocol of the 1997 Treaty of Amsterdam. This has generated a considerable literature as European scholars and policymakers have attempted to work out the implications of the principle in the context of the European Union. Let me now move to my third topic, and that's the philosophical foundations of subsidiarity. The popes came to the principle of subsidiarity through a concern for the dignity of the human person. Pius XI's theoretical base was the thought of the German social philosopher Gustav Grundler. Business and government, on the other hand, have probably justified it on more pragmatic grounds, either the simple recognition that it works or as a response to the problems of size and complexity and of rapid communication. Often they have discovered the principle empirically through analysis of successful undertakings. A third way of coming to the principle is through an understanding of power, and this is the course that we will follow here. It implies a shift from social philosophy to political philosophy. We will first consider three general ways in which power can be viewed. The first and most commonly accepted view of power, at least in Australia, is that it is something that belongs to persons that rule. It may be theirs by virtue of position or knowledge or some personal quality, but it is strictly their own. The study of power becomes the development of a technology of how to gain, hold and use power. The great exponent of such technology was Machiavelli, who in The Prince set out to, quote, lay down the law about how princes should rule. Power belongs to the prince, who needs to be astute about the various ways in which people can be compelled to act so as to further his interests. Fundamental to Machiavelli's position is the rejection of classical ethics in favour of what is actually done, and the corresponding separation of the discussion of power from ethics. Virtue, which for Machiavelli can be translated prowess, and which is etymologically associated with strength and also power, becomes the sum of those qualities that will enable the ruler to have his way with those under his dominion. The second way of dealing with power is to view it as something that is articulated in the structures of an organisation or a state. This is found in constitutional discussions, whether they be those of the philosophers, those surrounding development of modern written constitutions, or those following the various constitutional crises that occur from time to time. Essential to each of these discussions is the fact that various powers to act are divided among different officers and authorities in an organisation. The balance of power is a means of protecting the rights of members and of ensuring effective operation. If the organisation is well constituted, it will usually function well in relation to its goals and the interests of those who compose it, and with a minimum of conflict. A third way of viewing power is fundamental to the other two, but less frequently acknowledged, although I think it's more important for us. Hannah Arendt tells us that power corresponds to the human ability not just to act, but to act in concert, to act together. It is therefore a coming together of human energy in such a way that the ability of a group is focused and that the group is able to get things done. In other words, power is the energy of the group brought to bear. It is essential to this view that power belongs to the group, not to the one leading the group. Arendt distinguishes power from strength, force, authority and violence, and laments the fact that they are generally confused in contemporary discussions, as indeed they often are in practice. She claims that when we speak of a powerful man or a powerful personality, we already use the word power metaphorically. What we refer to without metaphor is strength. If power is taken in this third sense, as the ability of a group to get things done, it soon becomes evident that some kind of organisation, and in fact subordination, is necessary for it to function. A group becomes capable of concerted efforts only when individuals rise out of the group to command and so coordinate activities. This can happen either because of the strength of the individuals or because of some choice of the group. But those persons will be capable of thinking out and initiating the performances to be undertaken by the group. Such persons are said to have power or to be in power, and we might call this exercised power. We are now in a position to put the three views of power together. Power in its fundamental sense belongs to a group and is the ability to bring energy to bear in a particular way, that is, to undertake a particular form of action. That a group do this demands that its efforts be coordinated by someone who is said to have power or to exercise power. This is the kind of power that is articulated in constitutional discussions. A person exercising power has a difficult and complex task, and the value of Machiavelli's study was that it initiated discussion about how power might be effectively used. His failing was to attribute power simply and solely to the person exercising it. Such exercise necessarily relies on compulsion and can only be violent. It soon loses contact with the energy of the group. One of the problems of exercised power is that it tends to expand, so that those in power draw more and more power to themselves. This may be because of the success or the desire of those holding power, or because of outside influences such as danger or threat. This is bad for the group because it locates power with those in power rather than with the action of all the members of the group, with the result that the flow of energy in the group is constricted. At this point, it is useful to articulate two further principles. The principle of subordination says, as we have just seen, that actions of persons in a group need to be coordinated by some single authority for the sake of the common good, and so that a group can, in fact, act in concert. The principle of autonomy, on the other hand, acknowledges the value of individual persons or smaller groups acting effectively for the general good. And it recognises that this kind of action is part of being a human person.